to talk to you about a philosophy. I'm going to talk to you about acquiring customers, but I want to talk to you not just as if you were training somebody to do it for the very first time, but I want to talk about it from a leadership level. I want to talk about it as a philosophy, because I believe that if you understand what we understood when we started ACN, it's going to give you leverage from this point going forward, because we knew our identity. When we started this company, Greg, Robert, Tony, and myself, we understood exactly what we were as a company. We understood what our advantage was as a company, and we focused in on key things that made us grow. So I want to go through a couple slides, but I want to give you a little background, and I want you to think about how we started in comparison to what ACN is actually today. When we started in 1993, we had huge obstacles. As a matter of fact, we started ACN 11 years after the deregulations of the telecommunications services. Most people considered us too late. We were at the height of competition. There were over 400 different fixed line phone companies competing in the market for the same business. And they had very, very deep pockets. And when I say deep pockets, they had a lot of money. They were spending not millions of US dollars, but they were spending billions of US dollars in advertising campaigns. And a lot of those campaigns were somewhat misleading. So it was challenging because they were really marketing one thing, and what the consumer was actually getting was something totally different. But the bigger companies could offer lower rates than what we could offer, because they were willing to lose money on their customers because they already had all the customers. They were only offering all the new calling plans to the customers that left. So they would call the customers that left, and they would undercut the rates to get them back. They used to call that a win back. And it was challenging because they didn't care if they lost money on the customers they would win back, because they were making so much money on the old customers. So we couldn't compete with their pricing, and they had very aggressive business tactics. I mean, they would do anything and use any form of acquiring customers, whether it seemed legitimate or not legitimate. I'll give you an example. They used to hire third-party telemarketing companies, and these telemarketing companies would be paid every time they acquired a customer. They were not actually owned by the company that they were getting customers for. They were a third-party telemarketing company, so they didn't care. They would say anything, and they would do anything over the phone to get somebody to switch their service. I mean, there were times people would actually lie, and I know this because I remember back then when I would receive phone calls, and because I was in the business, I would ask questions, and they would lie to me, and then I'd say, I'll tell you what, I will change if you put what you just said in writing. And every time I'd say, if you put it in writing, I'll change, they would hang up the phone because they weren't doing the business properly. So that's the kind of competition we were dealing with. So 20 years ago, what did ACN do? Well, we partnered up with a fixed line phone provider. Now back then, we were just getting started. We had no money. So the only way we could be in business is if we could find a big company that was already selling fixed line phone service, and we signed an agreement with them. And then they would pay us, our company ACN, a residual income. And then we would turn around and pay that to our representatives when they got customers. So that's basically how ACN started. So we partnered up with a good company. We thought they were a fair company. They actually were the fourth largest phone company in the United States at that time, selling fixed line. And they were a decent company. They only had about 1% of all the customers in the U.S., so that was good for us because even though they were number 4, 99% of the country was still wide open to us, and that's all we needed. But understand, ACN had no track record. Okay, we had never done before what we were about to do in the future. Okay, we only operated in one country. I mean, look at today. We operate in 23 and growing. Okay? We only sold one service, and that was fixed line. And the average revenue, the average turnover per customer was only around 15 US dollars. Okay, that was it. That's how ACN started. Now, what did we accomplish against all that competition going forward? Well, 5 years later, ACN created approximately 400 million in annual turnover with our customers' bills. Now think about that. We started with nothing. We had no representatives. We had no experience, but we built a company that had enough revenue of 400 million in turnover and revenue from customers from scratch, and we did that in less than 60 months. And the reason we did this and we had such huge success is because we understood and we were very clear on what our advantage was. And our advantage was three things: relationship marketing. Our whole system is around a lot of people doing a little bit. Okay, we don't ask one person to do a lot. It's about a lot of people doing a little bit. And number three, we had the right attitude. Now, let me just talk about these three things for a minute. Okay, relationship marketing. Okay, we all know what that is. But if you think about all the big phone companies, I don't care what country you live in, every one of us, there's a big phone company, or there's very competitive phone companies or other service providers that are competing and they're going after business. Let me explain. There's a big difference between ACN and those companies, and you got to know what those differences are. The main difference is those big companies cannot reach the masses. They cannot reach the masses on a personal level. They have to use some form of mass marketing, and it's usually a cold marketing technique. That's how they reach the majority of us. The advantage we have is we're approaching people we know. We have a relationship with the people we know. If I was a rep today, the first person I would talk to would be my twin brother, if I was a rep, because I have a relationship with my brother, and I'd ask him to be a customer. Then I might talk to a friend. I might talk to somebody at work. But my initial group of people I'm going to talk to are people that I have a relationship with. That's the advantage we have. And if you look at number two, nobody's asking you to do a lot. You know, I know a lot of people that work in sales. And if you work in sales, most companies require you to sell a certain amount of business, and they call that a quota. So if you want to work for a company and you're working with sales, they're going to tell you that you have to get a certain amount of customers every week if you want to keep your job. Or they might tell you you have to get a certain amount of customers every month if you want to keep your job. Or you might have to get a certain amount of customers overall during the year if you want to keep your job. And if you don't hit your quota, they're going to fire you because they're going to go look for somebody else that's better at sales than you. That's what companies do. Okay? That's not how ACN works. Think about what we're asking people to do. Okay? We're not telling people, and let me just give you a random goal, because I know every country is slightly different with points, but let me just give you a simple goal. Let's say we told you we wanted you to get 50 points, and we made that your lifetime goal. And just for my example, let's just, for an example, say every customer was 2 points, just for my example. So let's say I told you to get 25 customers, 50 points. Okay? That's not something I want you to do every year. That's not something I'm asking you to do every month. That's not something I'm asking you to do every week. That's not something I'm asking you to do every day. We're asking you to do it one time. That's it. And the only other job you have is to replace one of those customers if they leave. So once you hit your goal, now your job is to just replace a customer if they leave. So the quality of your customers is important. How you approach people is important. And if you do your job is going to be easy because you simply duplicate that activity. So we're not asking anyone to do a lot. And when I think about it this way, that's a lifetime goal. when we ask people to get customers. So if somebody was really serious about doing a good job, I believe that anyone, I don't care who you are, in this room or outside this room, I believe in my heart I could sit down with somebody and I could educate them and teach them how to go out and get 25 customers, if that's their lifetime job with ACN. And I know that every one of you listening to me, if you really think about what I'm saying, I believe you would agree with me, because we're not putting any time frames on it. Some of you could do that in 1 week. Some of you might need all month to do it. Some of you might need all year to do it. It doesn't matter, because you're going to hit your goal when you hit your goal. Everyone achieves things at different levels. It doesn't matter. But I believe in my heart I could sit down with somebody and I could educate them how to get 25 customers, and however long it takes, it doesn't matter, they're going to be able to get that job done. And I believe it's a simple job, I believe it's an achievable job, and I know that if I do my job and I teach you how to do that and you get your 25 customers, you're going to become effective in this business, and I'll explain why in just a few minutes. So we're not asking people to do a lot. Okay? So relationship marketing, we're just asking everybody to do a little bit, and we had the right attitude. So the last piece, I want to ask you this. I want you to think about it. Having the right attitude. Having the right attitude. What does that mean? Okay, number one, it leads to success. I don't care who you are in this business. Every person that walks across the stage today who is training you, the reason they're on this stage is because they have the right attitude. Every one of them. Any person that is successful long-term has the right attitude. And the reason why I say long-term is because some people get lucky. Okay, some people get success in the short term because they're lucky. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you make money because you're lucky, God bless you. That's great. If you make money because you're at the right place at the right time, good for you. But what determines long-term success has nothing to do with luck. See, long-term success has everything to do with attitude. If you have the right attitude, you'll be successful no matter what long-term. I've seen a lot of people rise, and I've seen a lot of people fall. And you know why? Because they don't think the right way. So anybody can get lucky, but the people that are around long-term, it's because they think the proper way. They have the right attitude. Now, what does that mean to have the right attitude? Well, first, you have to stay positive no matter what. You have to stay positive no matter what. That's the hardest thing to do, because we all know that there's days that are good and there are days that are bad. How do you stay positive through the bad days? Well, that's the trick, okay? Successful people know there will always be obstacles and there will always be challenges ahead of us. They know that. I know that. Every Circle of Champions on stage knows this. We all know there's going to be challenges. So when those challenges actually come in our face, it doesn't bother us. Because we have the right attitude, we know they're coming. Okay, so here's how I separate leaders from weak people. I separate them. Because the difference is, when the first challenge arises, the people that are true leaders become stronger. They become stronger. They take on that challenge. And they just look at it and they say, we're going to win no matter what, and they keep going forward. You know what weak people do? The lucky people, I call them, that maybe they got to success out of luck, but they didn't really have the right mindset, okay? They all of a sudden become negative. I can tell you a weak person by the way they talk. The moment somebody approaches me and starts complaining and talking negative, and they have a mindset that they can't do something, I say, you know what? In my mind, I won't tell them, but I know they're weak. I know they're not a leader. And they're going to be here for a short window of time, and they're going to be gone because they don't think the right way. Okay, successful people always look for and find solutions, because that's what successful people do. Successful people always expect more from themselves, always. And this is something that my mentor taught me years and years ago. That says, Mike, whatever you think, you're right. Whatever you think, you're right. I can't change your mind. If you think ACN is a good opportunity and you believe that one day you're going to be successful and one day you're going to be a senior vice president, guess what? You're right. If you think that ACN is not a good company, and you think that you're never going to succeed, and you think that eventually you're not going to make any money, well, guess what? You're right. I can't change your thinking. You can't change my thinking. We own it. You own your thinking, I own my thinking. Okay? So my job isn't to change your thinking. And that's your job, not to change anybody else's thinking. That's the hardest thing to understand about what we do. Your job is not to change people's thinking because you can't control people's thinking. You can only lead them in the right direction. Whether or not they follow you and duplicate your activity is an entirely different story. The reason why a very small percentage of people go to the top in everything, not just ACN, but everything, is because the small majority of people out there have the power to control their thinking, which ultimately means they control their feeling. Okay, the masses, a lot of people can't do that. The moment something bad happens, they become weak and they become insecure and they become negative. And then all of a sudden they just quit. You can't control that. Never take it personal, but that's life. So having the right attitude is not easy. It isn't. I'll be honest with you. It's not easy. But if you want to be a winner long term, if you want to be successful long term, if you want to be a leader in ACN or anything you do in life, then you don't have an option. You have to develop the right mental attitude. You have to think the right way. And you can never look back. Can you imagine if Greg Provenzano was standing at this podium the last day of the weekend and was telling you he didn't know if it was going to work? You know, he's got his fingers crossed, he's hoping, but, things aren't looking really good, and we got to go back home and really think about our life, and we got to really just decide whether we want to do this or not. Can you imagine that? Think about that, okay? Well, whether you know this or not, you are the Greg Provenzano of your team. You are the Greg Provenzano of your team. So, when you show weakness and you show insecurity and you show indecision, that's who you are as a leader. That's who you are. And I learned that a long time ago, and you know what I learned? I said, I can't afford to be that person. I can never be that person again. See, acquiring customers is only one aspect of the business, but if you don't have the right attitude, there's no aspect of the business you're going to be good at. Does this make sense to you guys? Okay, hardest thing to do. But it's the most important thing that you do if you want to be successful in this business. So let's talk about acquiring customers. Okay, first of all, when acquiring customers, everyone has to understand you have to have a goal. I talked about that. You have to have a goal. And you never stop until you reach that goal. Number two, you have to focus on the reasons why someone should become your customer. You have to focus on those reasons. And you have to get out of your mind anything that could be considered an obstacle. You have to get that out of your mind, okay? Because if you start focusing on the reasons why somebody shouldn't be a customer, then that's all you're going to think about. How effective will you be at getting a customer if you're thinking about the reasons why they shouldn't do it? Okay? You've got to build a list of reasons why they should do it. And you got to focus in on that. You got to think about that. You got to hone in on that. And that is going to be who you are when you're approaching people to get them as a customer. Number three, most important. Okay, you have to ask people to be a customer. Do you know what the number one reason why people in ACN or any company fails to get a customer? The number one reason. They don't ask. They don't ask. You want to know the number one reason why people do get a lot of customers and are successful? The number one? Because they ask. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter whether people say yes or no. All that matters is that did somebody ask them to be a customer? How many people have you asked to be a customer in the last 24 hours? How many people have you asked to be a customer in the last 7 days? How many people have you asked to be a customer in the last 30 days? How many people have you honestly asked to be a customer in the last year? How many people have you asked altogether since you started ACN? Because whatever number you're going to tell me, it's not enough. It's never enough. Because when you stop asking, you stop getting customers. It doesn't matter whether they say yes or no. That's not the point. The point is that we are in the customer acquisition business. It's impossible to acquire a customer if you stop asking. Asking is the key. And you have to ask every day. You have to ask often, all the time. Don't worry about yes or no's. Just get out there and ask. If you're not asking, you'll get no customers. Does that make sense? Okay, only those of you that are in action, I call it, only those of you that are in the activity of asking, you will be the most educated people in ACN. Why? Because every day you gain experience. Every day you're gaining experience. And you know who the best trainers are in ACN? It's the ones that are doing it every day. The ones that are asking every day. Those are the people that have the best experience. They're the ones that are the best trainers. How can you be effective at training someone else if you yourself have not went out and asked somebody to become your customer? Okay, why is it important that you acquire customers and become an effective trainer? Well, 4 main reasons. Okay, 1, it builds your belief in the ACN opportunity. Okay, I'll give you an example. And I used to do this all the time. I used to sit down with my prospects and I said, listen, I would make them sit down with me. I'd have them give me a goal, a number of customers they were going to get. I'd have them tell me. I wouldn't tell them. I'd say, you tell me what you want to do in the next 7 days. And all I'm going to do is hold you accountable. Okay, I'm not going to put a goal in your head that you don't believe you can hit. So you tell me what you think you can do. I'd get somebody to tell me, I think I can get 2 customers this week. Okay, great. Okay, then this week, you're getting 2 customers. I'm not going to let you sleep. I'm not going to let you go out and have fun with your friends. I'm not going to let you do anything until you come back with those 2 customers because you told me you can do that. So now you have to deliver. You have to prove to me that you actually walk the walk, you don't talk the talk. And I would sit down, I would train them how to do it. I'd ask them what their plan was. I'd ask them who they were going to call. And I'd say, go do it. Yeah, I never believed in doing it for them. I don't believe in calling their customers for them. You do it. I'll train you, you do it. Why? Because you don't fully understand how to do it until you go through the experience yourself. I'll give you an example. I remember when I first got into network marketing, the very first week I was involved, somebody gave me a script. I'll never forget it. I read it. I go, that's easy. Yeah, just read the script and call somebody. I go, I can do that. No problem. I'll never forget it. I called the first person, and I looked down at the script. I read it like 3 or 4 times, and I started reading it while I was talking to my friend. I go, hey, and as I was going through my script, my friend goes, are you reading something? I go, no, why? They go, yeah, you're reading something. That's really weird. I go, I gotta go, and I hung up. Well, the funny thing was what I learned was that even though I knew what to do, I kind of memorized the script. I knew I had a plan. It's not till you actually do it till you understand that you're not good at it. Everyone's got to be bad. So I started calling someone else. I did it again. I did it again. I did it again. I remember it took about 5 or 6 calls. I remember this like yesterday. On my 6th call, I called somebody and I was reading the same script, but now it wasn't like I was reading. It was really strange. By the time I called my 6th person, it was almost like I took the words on the paper and they became my words. I had a different way of communicating. I don't know what it was, but what I learned is that practice does not make perfect. Have you heard that before? Practice makes perfect? It doesn't make perfect, because I never was perfect. But what I learned is practice makes better. If you do something on a regular basis, you just become better at it. You become more effective. So the reason why I hold my people accountable to what they tell me they're going to do is I already know they're going to fail through their first customer. I already know they're going to fail through their second, because I know they're going to do the opposite of what I told them. Any one of you in this room, I want to ask you a question. Think about it. How many of you joined ACN and somebody maybe in your very first meeting said, hey, don't talk to anybody till I tell you what to say and explain how it works? And how many of you went home and called somebody anyways and you didn't listen to that information? Okay? Now, I know you do that. You know why? Because I did that. The guy that recruited me told me, he says, don't call anybody till I explain what you need to say. I got home, I called my brother, I called my friend John, I called my friend Dan, and I was explaining everything, and I didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, it's crazy how, even though we know what we're supposed to do, people always do the opposite. So I know because I did it, everyone else is probably going to do it, so you got to accept that. So I'm going to hold my people accountable, but I know they're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to push them to do it, because if they don't do it themselves, then I'm going to handicap them. If I hold their hand and I walk them in and I get their customer for them, or I go out and get a customer and I give it to them because I'm trying to qualify, I'm building a weak person. And you know what? I'd rather build my business slow but have it strong than build it weak and have this person quit because I did all the work. What's the point of me stacking customers or getting the customers for somebody or holding their hand like a little baby to the point where they're not even going to do it, and now 2 weeks later they still don't know what they're doing and they quit? Is that a good rep? No, I want a strong rep. So I'd rather build slow and build strength. So again, builds belief not only in the opportunity but in the process. You'll know what works. New representatives need the training. It's impossible to train a new rep if you don't know what you're doing. The bottom line, number 4, it leads to great results. That's why it's important that you acquire customers and become an effective trainer. This is the key. That's what leadership is all about. Okay, let's look at the results of a team that is excellent in acquiring customers and training customer acquisition. Okay, now, I have the luxury of seeing teams that do good in ACN, and I have the luxury of seeing teams that do bad. Why? Because I have access to all the data in ACN globally. So I get to pull any report I want, and I can see who's doing good, I can see who's doing bad, I can see whose residual income is growing, I can see whose residual income is declining or not growing at all, and it's all based on the quality of customers that they're bringing in. And I know there's a lot of people out there that think short term. You know, they instead of joining ACN and getting good quality customers to build the residuals, they think short term. They say, you know, how can I figure out the fastest way to get somebody qualified instead of really spending time on training people to get customers? So I call that short-term thinking, or I call that marketing plan manipulation. It happens all the time in network marketing. It happens in ACN. It happens in other companies. Sometimes people have short-term thinking. So they don't think about the business being healthy. They think about the business making money quick. And that's not good, because ultimately you're wasting your time. Why do you want to have an organization of duplicated short-term thinkers? Nobody's doing it right. Nobody's getting good quality customers. What's the point of you being involved in ACN? What is the point? What, for a couple quick big bonus checks? Is that all you're really interested in? Because that's not a business. That's not a business. What a business is when you're getting real customers that is using real service and they're paying real bills because it's a real business, and your income is growing month after month after month after month because you're getting real residual income because you got good business coming in. That's a real business. And that's exactly what a leader focuses on. So let's look at the results and why a leader would want good customers. Number 1, you personally will earn a higher residual income. Now, I love bonuses, don't get me wrong. I think they're the greatest invention in our concept of business. But how many of you would love to know that in say 1 month, for whatever reason, you had 1 month where not one person was recruited in your downline? Not one. For whatever reason, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, not one person joined your business. Not one. But you were still making 10,000 or 20,000 euros every month because you had so many customers, you had so much billing, your residual income paid you a lot of money whether you had recruiting or not. Would that be a pretty good feeling, yes or no? Yeah, absolutely. That's what you want to focus on building. So you'll earn a higher residual income if you are excellent at acquiring customers and you're excellent at training customer acquisition. Number 2, your team will earn higher residual income. Number 3, your residual income will retain longer. Okay? It'll retain longer, and that's what you want. Your team will have loyalty and longevity. Why? Because they know they're a part of a real business with real customers generating real billing. That's hard to walk away from. Okay? Your organization will be better recruiters because they'll have higher belief. Now, I'm going to say something, many of you may not realize this, but who do you think is a better recruiter? Someone that's good at acquiring customers or someone that's just good at presenting? What do you think is a better recruiter? Because I'm going to tell you, the better recruiter is not the good presenter. The better recruiter is the one who's good at getting customers because their belief is high. When they experience the real business of ACN and they experience the real result of ACN, they have a much higher belief, a much higher passion. They're a much better trainer. They have more conviction when they speak. That's the person who's going to be a better recruiter. We've got a whole lot of talented people in ACN. A matter of fact, and what I'm about to say is a fact, because I know some of you know these people. We have some really talented ETTs in ACN. I've seen some real talented ETLs. I've seen some ETLs that should be on this stage because they're so good at presenting and they're so good at training. I mean, they blow away the co-founders, all the COC members, and the top RVPs and SVPs. That's how talented they are. But you know why they're not on stage? Because they don't have a business. They don't have a business. Why? Because they don't have the belief. They don't do the work. They're just talented people. Talent will never get you to the top. Work ethic gets you to the top. Work ethic comes from belief. If you have belief in what you're doing, you're going to have work ethic. If you have work ethic, you're going to rise to the top and you'll be on stage. It's work ethic, not talent. So ultimately, you become a better trainer. You'll be a better trainer because of it. Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit into what you should do. I've only got a few more slides to go, but I want you to listen closely because, again, it's a philosophy. Okay, if you want to be effective at customer acquisition and you want to be a very effective trainer, you've got to teach an approach that works. Hear what I'm saying. You've got to teach an approach that works. But number two, you have to teach an approach that sounds like it works. Okay? The only way it will sound like if it works is if it really works. Okay? Because if it doesn't work, it won't sound like it works. So you have to teach an approach that you know works because you're experienced, and you have to teach it so it sounds like it works. Okay? You have to explain why it works. You've got to tell stories. You've got to use testimonials. You have to give examples. And you also have to recognize the people that are doing it right. What I used to do is I used to have a competition. And I used to do this every Saturday training. I used to figure out who had the most customers in the room, and I would utilize them as my testimonials, and I would give them the most recognition because I knew that everybody else in the room wants the same recognition. And then they would start saying, well, how did they get the recognition? Well, they're good at getting customers. And guess what? Then those people would want to learn what they did, and then conversations would start, and guess what? They would get a lot of customers. Successful training leads to new representatives acquiring customers. And this really is the best way to measure whether you're good at training people to get customers. Here's how you measure. Okay? When I started learning how to teach people, I used to go and talk to my mentors all the time, and I would ask them, how do I know I'm doing a good job, I'd say. We'll say it's very simple. Okay? There's a very simple way you will learn if you're doing a good job. I go, how? They say, it's very simple. Okay, when you're done training customer acquisition, did the people you train successfully get a customer? Because if they didn't, then you're terrible at customer acquisition training. If they did, that means you're good at customer acquisition training. So I started measuring my results in training based on what people did after I was done training. And I was very hard on myself. If I trained somebody how to get customers and they walked away from me and they didn't get any customers, I took personal responsibility. I said, I'm doing a bad job training. I'm doing a bad job training. And I'm going to figure out what I'm doing wrong, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to train this person the right way. Because I took a personal responsibility to that. As a leader, take personal responsibility. If you can teach somebody how to get a customer and they walk away from you and get a customer, that means you're successful. You're effective. You're effective. And every one of you got to strive to be effective. Strive to be effective. Because if you're not effective, then you're no use to the person you're training. Training should never be a formality. Don't just show up to do a training because you're there to do a training. I see people do it all the time. They'll point at, hey, Bob, why don't you come up and you do customer acquisition training? And they, all right, I'll come up and I'll do training today for customer acquisition. All right. And here's 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. And they walk off the stage. That's not how you train people to get customers. But there's a lot of people out there that treat it like a formality. No, you have to take it personally. You have to take it personally. If somebody does not get a customer after you train them, take it personally. It's your fault. And if you start taking that level of accountability in yourself, you're going to force yourself to become an excellent trainer. Excellent. But never be satisfied with your training unless you measure results. How many people got customers today because of your training? Okay? Lead by example, train properly. So here's some basic steps. And again, this is a philosophy. I want you to think about it. Okay? Teach the basic steps when you're trying to help somebody get customers. Teach the basic steps. Okay, number one, teach people's customer sources. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Number two, teach people the right approach. It doesn't matter whether people get a good response or the wrong response. If they're using the right approach and they're using the right script, it's going to work. They're going to get customers. Okay? Teach people, number three, teach them sorting versus selling. That's probably one of the most important things someone can learn. And also, number four, teach the proper expectation. You know, if somebody leaves you and they think that the very first person they're going to talk to is going to say yes, and that person says no, like their mother, okay? I've had people walk away and they called their mother. And they said, Mom, you need to be my customer. And all of a sudden they call me back and say, my mom said no. I said, well, what did you say? I said, Mom, you need to be my customer. I said, well, you did it wrong. You did it wrong. You approached your mother the wrong way. Okay? But if I can't get my mother to be a customer, then how am I supposed to expect to get anybody as a customer? Well, you got to teach people the expectation. Look, if you approach people the wrong way, even if they're your mother, they're going to say no. You have to teach people the right way. So let me talk about the sources, and then I want to talk about the approach. Okay? Customer sources. I would sit down with everyone and say, here's the 3 places you will get customers today and go forward. Okay? You're going to be your first customer. I always tell people, you are your first customer. I don't care how many services ACN has, figure out which ones apply to you and sign up. And the reason why I want you to sign up is, number one, you should be using a product you're selling. But number two, the greatest lesson I can teach you about how to sign up a customer is sign up yourself. If you sign yourself up on the service, guess what? You're going to learn how to sign somebody else up. How do you tell somebody else to do it if you didn't do it yourself? So sign yourself up first. Number two, go out there and approach people about looking at ACN as an opportunity. I want you to do that first. I want you to do that first. Why? Because let's be honest. When you start approaching people and you start piquing their interest about joining ACN, it would be nice in a perfect world if every person you approach became your representative. It'd be great. But that's just simply not the way life really works. I bet you out of the first 10 people you talk to, maybe 2 or 3 are going to look at the opportunity and maybe join, and the rest are not going to get involved in ACN. Why? Because you're learning. But if somebody says no to the opportunity, those are the best people to say, well, would you at least do me a favor and just try the service and help me out there? And you'll find that most people won't say no twice. Most people will say maybe no to the opportunity, but then they'll say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll try the service. I'll try the service. So your second source of customers should come from your prospects who do not get involved in ACN, but you can follow up and ask them to become a customer. Now, I say this because you know how many people I see they let prospects walk out the door? I used to teach everyone, I said, never let somebody, if somebody says no to the opportunity, you always approach them to get them as a customer. Now, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to become a customer, but guess what? A lot of people do. A lot of people may say no to the opportunity, but they will become a customer. It might only be 70%, but that's a lot of people. And imagine every time somebody said no to the business, you got them as a customer. Well, believe me, you're going to get a lot of no's in your life. If you're in ACN or you're in network marketing, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to say no. It doesn't matter, because if they say no, you can still make money on them because they can still become your customer. Can you imagine making 25 euro cents every month or 50 euro cents every month on every no that ever happened in your business? Would that be okay? Start adding up all that money. But you got to approach people. You got to ask. If you don't ask them to become a customer and you let them walk away, you lost the opportunity. Number three, everyone else on your warm market list. And it doesn't matter who that list is, you've got to have a list. Okay, now, number 2 and number 3, these are really what you've got to teach people the proper approach. You don't have to worry about yourself. If you've got trouble talking to yourself, you might need to see a psychologist, but I think you're okay with yourself. I think you can negotiate a couple plans here and there. Okay? But the challenge is always in number 2 and number 3. So what you've got to do as a good trainer, you've got to explain the categories of customers. Now, a lot of people don't do this. They blow this over and they don't spend time on it. Look, here's my experience. My experience is that when you're acquiring customers, 10% of the people are going to be red apples. And we all know what a red apple is if someone says yes. So if you approach somebody the right way, 10% of the people are going to say yes right away. And the bottom 10%, we call brown apples, they're going to say no right away. And they could be your friend. We all have that friend, right? That you think in your mind they're going to say yes, and you approach them and say, hey, listen, I was wondering if, and they look at you and say, no, I'm not interested. He said, well, I didn't even ask you yet. Well, I don't care. I'm saying no right now. No. And you're thinking, wow, that was my good friend, and they're saying no to me. But that's just life. 10% of the people are going to say no, just like that. 10% of the people are going to say yes, just like that. So what group do you really have to focus your training on? You've got to focus your training on the 80%. And that's the middle group. That's the green apple. Okay, the green apple is the person that doesn't say no, and they don't say yes. They say something like, what is it? Or what do you need? Or can you give me some more details? They ask questions. Okay, that's where all your training has to be. Your training doesn't have to be in the red apple. They said yes. Sign them up. Your training does not have to be in the brown apple. They said no. I think we know what to do with them. The training has to be in the green apple. How do you manage the green apples? Say, first of all, you got to do your homework. Every one of you live in a different city. Every one of you live in a different country. So bottom line, you have to know the market that you're working in. The more you understand about what you have to offer, the more success you will have. Okay, number 1, if you're confused, so will your prospect be confused. So if you're confused, they're going to be confused. Number 2, you want to learn about the products that are in your market. Number 3, you want to familiarize yourself with the most commonly asked questions and answers. Now, some of you get a sheet of paper from ACN and you have a list of questions that might pop up. Okay? And sometimes those apply, sometimes they don't. But here's what I used to do. And again, my mentor taught me this. He says, Mike, I'm going to tell you how to learn what people need to know. Because no one really knows what people need to know when you're getting customers. So here's how you learn. When you start approaching people, you're going to find that they're going to start asking you questions. But over time, you're going to notice that the same 3 to 5 questions come up over and over and over again. The same 3 to 5. It's not like the whole world is sitting home, studying a secret question that they can ask you when you approach them. Usually they ask you the same basic questions. Now, I know every city's different, every market's different, every country's different. That's why you got to do this in your own country. Sit back, pay attention to the questions. And you might not be able to answer those questions. You might come across a question that you don't even know the answer, and it's okay. See, don't feel bad if you don't know the answer. Just look at somebody and go, wow, that was an excellent question. Nobody has ever asked me that question. You must be like a genius or something. That is incredible. I'll tell you what, I'll find out the answer, and I'll get that for you. But besides that, is there anything else you need to know before you become my customer? Because it's not a question of whether they're going to be your customer. It's just a question of whether you get that answer. And now when they ask you something you don't know, you write that down, you go study it, you develop the perfect answer. Now 2 days later, you approach somebody else to become a customer, and they say, well, I have a question. You go, well, what's your question? And they ask the same one. You go, that is an excellent question. Let me give you the answer. But you're never going to know how the answers are unless you are out there talking to people. But get the questions. Don't feel afraid of the questions. I want the questions. I want to know that I don't know the answers. I want to know what I need to know. So here's my statement to you. How do you know what you need to know when you don't know what you need to know? How do you know? Right? So the answer is, you got to get out there and talk to people. You got to get out there and ask people to become customers. And that's when you're going to hear the same questions come up over and over and over. And now you become a master. And now you practice. I'm going to come up with such an answer that's so strong, that's so good, that everyone that I talk to is going to think I'm a genius. Because you know what the definition of an expert is? I learned this also by my mentor. My mentor, you know what the definition of an expert is? It's the person you're talking to that knows 1% more than you. 1% more than you, they know more than you. If you know 1% more than the person you're talking to, who's the expert? You're the expert. And I found that it's not worth studying everything. It's not worth knowing everything. There's too much information to learn. I'm not going to sit here and study every single thing out there. I'm not going to do that. But you know what I am going to study? The 5 most commonly asked questions. I'm going to know the answers to those 5 most commonly asked questions. I'm going to be a master at answering those 5 most commonly asked questions, because that's all I really need to know, because those are the only questions that come up probably 95% of the time. So how do you know what you need to know? Get out there, let people ask you questions you don't know, study the answer, become a master at answering those questions, and then you come back, and that's how you become an expert in the business. So learn about the products, familiarize yourself with the most commonly asked questions and answers, and the last one, set the appropriate product expectation. You don't need to over-promote anything. You don't need to over-promote. And I'm going to tell you why in just a minute, okay? First of all, you got to know the characteristics of most consumers. And I believe in teaching this. You got to know it, you got to teach it. Okay? Bottom line, people buy emotionally, not logically. Now, I know that everyone in the room thinks that we are in the rate business. You know, it's the price, it's all logical. Okay? That's not true. 90% of the people using mobile phone service, traditional phone service, internet, energy, right now in Europe, can call another company right now and get a product they can save money on, right now. They could call the existing company they're with right now and negotiate a better price right now. Why don't people do it? Why don't people go home every night or every 30 days and try to negotiate better pricing? Why? Because most people just simply don't wake up every day thinking that their phone bill or their mobile phone bill is such a major life, family decision that they got to worry about it. They don't worry about it. I mean, I know people are conscious of their bills, but if saving money was the most important thing, then that's all people would do every single day, every single week, every single month. There'd be no company out there would make any money. But we happen to know for a fact that there's a lot of companies out there that make a lot of money because people don't care. Okay? So you got to get out of your head that people are technical and that people are logical when it comes to making a decision. It's not true. People make decisions emotionally, they buy emotionally, okay? Saving is not the most important motivating factor. So you've got to look at what people feel good about. What can I offer to someone that makes them feel good? Okay? People feel good about supporting someone else saying no. And they always respond positively if they're approached the right way. And let me explain. If you approach somebody the right way, you're going to get a positive response. If you approach them the wrong way, even if they're your mom, you're going to get the negative response. Okay, so let's talk about the approach. Now, all of you have seen this before. We talk about using the script. We talk about sorting. We say red apples, you sign them up. Green apples, you want to follow the script. And brown apples, you want to move on. You've heard this before. But you've got to spend a lot of time at explaining the psychology behind this, because there is real psychology. 3 words in your script help not only in acquiring customers, but believe it or not, these 3 words are powerful even if you're recruiting somebody to look at ACN as an opportunity. Favor, help, try. 3 most powerful words when getting a customer, and believe it or not, 3 very powerful words when you're asking somebody to look at a business opportunity that you are involved in. But the key is not what you say, the key is how you say it. Urgency and enthusiasm equal success. In other words, those 3 words are powerless if you don't have a sense of urgency when you use them. Those 3 words are powerless if you are not enthusiastic when you're speaking. Those 3 words mean nothing. You'll gain no success if you don't use urgency and enthusiasm. So it's not what you're saying, it's also how you're saying it. So I'm going to give you a little basic scripting here. You guys have seen this before, but I'm really doing this because I want you to get the big picture. I want you to think about the psychology. Don't worry about the detail of what I'm getting into right now. But if I'm going to approach a friend, or I'm going to approach someone I know, I'm going to say with enthusiasm, with a sense of urgency, I'm going to say, listen, can you do me a huge favor? And you got to practice that. Can you do me a huge favor? And I'm going to teach you how you can do that. I want you to imagine something. Imagine if I pulled out on stage a brand new Lamborghini. You guys ever see that car before? Let's say I drove a brand new Lamborghini and it's on stage. And I said to you, if you can get 5 people to come say hi to me, and you got to get them in front of me, but you can't tell them why they're going to see me, you can't tell them why they're going to talk to me. All you got to do is just get them in front of me, but you can't give them any information, and you've got to do it within 60 minutes. You got 1 hour. And if I give you 1 hour to put 5 people in front of me, and you can't talk to anybody in this room, you got to leave the auditorium to get them. You got to get 5 people in front of me, and all you got to do is introduce them to me. That's it. I will give you this Lamborghini. It's yours for free. But if you tell anybody anything, then you lose. You'll fail. How many of you would have a little bit of a sense of urgency when you were running out that door? Right? And then when you talk to somebody, how would you talk? Hey, listen, I need a favor. I need you to come with me. Don't ask any questions. Just trust me. Just come with me. Please, I just need a favor. Help me out, please. Just come with me. Come on. Let's go. No, you too. I need you too. I need a favor. You'd have a sense of urgency. So you've got to create this sense of urgency. People will respond to a person that has a sense of urgency. You always got to have a sense of urgency whenever you're talking to people because it creates an energy. It's unexplainable. I can't tell you why. It's just something that's contagious. If you're very calm and you're like this, I mean, how good would you be if you were like this? I was wondering if you'd do me a favor. Can you come with me? No? Right. You understand? It's unexplainable. It's unexplainable. Okay? Sense of urgency, you've got to teach it, you've got to create it, you've got to get in touch with it because it creates energy. It creates something from the person you're talking to. And I know some of you say, well, I just don't have any energy. I'm not a real enthusiastic person. Well, great. You should be because if you're enthusiastic, then you're going to affect people even more. Can you guys do that? Okay. So you ask the script. You wait for the response. And then you sort. It's simple. It's simple. You got red apples, you got green apples, you got round apples. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Now, obviously, people that have questions are going to ask you questions. You answer the question to the best of your ability. That's all you've got to do. If you're dealing with a green apple, you read the script, and I just made a basic one up here. Hey, I'm about to qualify for a promotion with my company, and I need to make this happen. All I need is a few more customers right away. Can you do me a huge personal favor and become one of my customers? Now, that's just one example, right? Then you qualify by the response, right? Green, red, rotten. I'll give you another example. You say, can you do me a huge favor? You wait for a response. I'm about to qualify for a promotion with my company, and to make this happen, I need a few more customers right away. I offer several services to an online store. It'd be great if you'd be a customer of all my services, but if not, maybe you could just try one of them and help me out. I mean, it's pretty simple. What do? You sort. You sort. Now, the key to answering a question is very simple. Answer the question, ask for the favor. I don't care what the question is. Now, I've got some very basic ones, but a commonly asked question, what service or services are you offering? Okay? You answer the question, but say, but more important, can you do me a huge favor, help me out and give the service a try, or become one of my customers? No matter what you say, always come back to the most important question that they're helping you out. Somebody might say, how much will it cost? Okay? Answer the question. But more important, can you do me a huge favor? Help me out and give the service a try. Why should I try your service? I'm happy with what I have. Hey, look, answer the question. But more important, can you do me a huge favor? Help me out and give the service a try. See, it doesn't matter what they're asking. You always go back to have them helping you out because they'll help you. They just looking for a reason. Answer the question, answer the favor. Ask for the favor, okay? So brown apples, this is the last slide I'm going to talk to you guys about. Look, brown apples can be a little depressing, I know. Okay? They can be a little depressing. Someone's your friend, it could be a family member. We all know that somebody feels a little depressed if they have to experience the negativity or the rejection of a brown apple. But you've got to teach people how to deal with this. Okay? First of all, you got to think like a big business. You got to think like a big corporation. Okay? Do you really think a big corporation gets emotional if somebody says no? I was backstage just now, and I had some weird random call. It was a weird random call, and I looked, I didn't even recognize the number. I answered the phone, and the guy on the other line is going, how you doing? Good? Can I help you? Yes, we just wanted to make sure that, you're happy with your financial situation, and I go, what are you selling? They go, no, I just, nothing. I go, hey, you're selling something. Just get to the point. What are you selling? Oh, financial services. I go, I'm all set, thanks. I hung up. No, I just rejected that person. I was the brownest brown apple that person backstage could ever deal with, and here I'm being sympathetic to him. I'm talking about red apples and green apples, but I myself also have been a brown apple. All of you at one point in your life have been a brown apple. Sometimes you just say no. Don't take it personal. Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. You got to think like a big business. Some will say yes, some will say no. So what? You got to move on. Also, understand. Tell people sorting versus selling. And I'm just going to the bottom one. Just have fun. Teach people to have fun. I mean, you got to have fun. Diffuse the situation. If somebody says no to you, even in your mind, accept it. I accept it. They're not going to say yes. But you know what? It gives me a chance to have a little fun. I might look down and they might ask me what's wrong. I said, no, I'm just surprised. What are you talking about? I mean, I just had a list of people that I was going to ask to help me out, and everybody I thought wouldn't help me did, and you were the one person I thought would help me, which is really weird. I'm sorry, I just don't know what to think. It's crazy. But if there's anything you need, you just call me anytime. I'll be there for you, okay? I'll be there, okay? But you're having fun. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Look, bottom line, guys, acquiring customers is what we do. That's what separates ACN from the competition. That's what separates us from all the telecommunication companies out there. You have to understand, people ask me all the time, what's the difference between ACN and this company, or ACN and that company, or ACN and this company? And I'm going to tell you, okay, we offer an opportunity, they don't. I don't ever look at the rates. I don't care what plans are being offered. We're going to get better. That's what competition's all about. We're good for a while, then they get better, and then we got to get better, and then they get better, and we get better. That's what competition's all about. Okay? We're always going to get better. That's what we do. Okay? We always look for new opportunities. And we're investing a lot of money. You're going to learn about this tomorrow. We're going to talk to you tomorrow about the vision of ACN and what you're going to see happen through 2013 going into 2014. We got a lot of major things happening. It's going to change this opportunity forever because that's what we do. We create the opportunity. We create the opportunity. That's what ACN is, an opportunity. Okay, what are you comparing rates for? Who cares about the rates? That's not what separates ACN from the competition. What separates ACN from the competition is lifestyle. We're giving people a chance to be what they want to be financially, which they can translate into anything they want. That's what ACN is, and you can never forget that. But in order to take advantage of it, you got to be the best you can be. You got to be a strong leader. You got to do it right. You got to get quality customers. You got to think long term. You got to build a solid business. You got to have the right attitude. Don't ever be weak. Don't ever let anyone talk you out of this business. And it's the last thing I want to say because it's really important. There's a lot of people out there that have their own agenda. There are people sitting in the audience right now. You don't even know it. Right now, they're sitting next to you. They've already decided they're going to quit ACN. They've decided it. Okay, why? Because it happens all the time. And you know why they're here this weekend? Because they're going to collect business cards. Because they're going to call you later. They're going to offer you something else because it didn't work for them or they became negative. That happens all the time. Okay? okay? All the time. There's people that go on RVP trips that are only there for one reason, to collect names and numbers. There are people out there that decide for whatever reason to become negative, and I see it all the time. I know people that left ACN, went to other network marketing companies, not because those other companies were better. They went to those other companies because those companies paid them some cash, gave them a chunk of money. To me, there's no integrity in that. They're going to another company because they got paid a bunch of cash to go over, but now they're recruiting people to that company, and they can't offer those people the same thing. That's just not fair. They're not there because of the opportunity. They're there because somebody bought them. That's not smart. And I'm telling you guys, that's not leadership. That's not leadership. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to tell you who, but I had a conversation backstage, and it was with a senior vice president. It's somebody that all of you know. And he confided in me. We were just talking backstage. And I got to tell you, my respect level went up for this guy, because when you're a Circle of Champions member, you're also promoted. You're edified in this company. He's been promoted and edified. Everyone outside ACN knows who our leaders are because they're in all our publications. They're on the website. You're edified. You're not only big in our company, but you're big in the industry. You just don't know it. When you're edified, you're well known. This guy backstage got offered $500,000, euros, €500,000 to join another company. You know what he said? He laughed in their face. He says, no thanks. No thanks. That to me is a classy leader. That's a class leader because he's got pride in his business, and my respect for him went way up, because you know how many people out there will just walk away because of a chunk of money? So it's all about character. It's about who you are. Can you guys promise me you guys are going to be the best leaders in ACN you could possibly be? Yes or no? Okay? And defend yourself against those that are trying to destroy your business. Don't let anybody in your house that's trying to destroy your family. Don't let anybody in your house trying to destroy your business. If somebody's negative around you or negative around your team, you get rid of them. Tell them to get out, because here it's about giving hope. It's about building somebody's future. It's about giving people a dream. It's about getting people out of where they are to where they want to be. That's what we do. Don't let anybody steal somebody's dream because they're weak-minded and they don't have the attitude for success. If they don't have it, let them go. Just let them leave. But your job is to be a rock and be strong for your people. That's what your job is. Can you guys handle that? Okay. That concludes my training. I just got a couple of announcements. Before we let you guys go. If you guys go to the shop we have here on site, we've got a little package we put together. It's called the ACN Tools Pack. You can get 10 of the ACN Opportunity DVDs combined with 10 of the Success from Home magazines. We've also got a special 20th anniversary edition of the Voice and Vision magazine. We usually sell out of those here, so you want to grab one of those. It's going to be approximately €65. That's a 10% savings, but the good thing about getting here, you don't have to pay for shipping. Also, don't forget about the charity. I talked about it earlier today. Guys, anything you can do will help out. We're going to match what you guys do. The more you give, the more we're going to give. Also, help us celebrate ACN's 20th anniversary. We've got these T-shirts that we put together. They kind of celebrate the 20th anniversary. It's a Budapest event T-shirt. Grab that. We've got pins. But these are just little things to celebrate. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start at 9 a.m. sharp. But do me a favor. Tomorrow morning, our marketing team put together something real special on the stage here tomorrow. It's going to be a real special show. We don't want you to miss it, but it's going to start right at 9 a.m. So I just encourage you, make sure you're here early. If you've got a VIP seat, make sure you're sitting in your seat, because we don't want to have the cameras going and have empty seats up here, and we don't want to let them go to somebody else. So make sure you guys are here in time. Can you guys do that for me? 9 a.m. See you guys. Thank you very much.